Welcome to Miss Taylor's class notes, and today we're going to be writing equations from 2 points. So the first thing that we need to do is we need to remember how to find the slope when we're given 2 points. And here's where we have to remember our slope formula. Our slope formula is slope equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Remember that this is on your formula chart. It is always something you're going to have access to. So we have an x1, y1, x2, y2. Because remember, on our points, x always comes first. The first point is 1. The second point is y. So our y2 is 3 minus our y1 is 5. Our x2 is 2 minus, and then we put a negative 1. What's super important is that we put that double negative because that double negative tells me to add. So I'm going to have a negative 2 over 3. And so that is our slope. And then the next thing we need to remember is we need to remember our slope-intercept formula. Y equals mx plus b. So going forward, we're going to write an entire equation, y equals mx plus b, with only 2 points. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to find slope. That's always going to be our first step, is we're going to find our slope. The next thing, this is our new step, is that we're going to take one of the points, x comma y, and we're going to plug it into slope-intercept form with the slope. And that's going to allow us to find our b. And then we plug in our slope and we plug in our b and we have our answer. I'm going to try to do my best to color code these so that you know which steps are which. So our first one is to find our slope. x1, y1, x2, y2. So 6 minus 5 over 4 minus 2. So 6 minus 5 is 4. 4 minus 2 is 2. And we simplify that to a 2. And so the next part that we need to do is we need to pick one point. It can be any point. It does not matter which one it is. I can't do math. Sorry, guys. I thought that looked wrong. 6 minus 5 is not 4. I don't know what my brain was thinking. 6 minus 5 is definitely 1, and so our slope is 1/2. Sorry, it's a bad math day. So once we have a slope, we need to pick one point. It can be any point. I usually pick the first point. So we're going to use 2 comma 5. This is going to be our x and our y. And then we're going to use 1/2, which is going to be our m. Sorry, I'm trying to stick with my color coding. So we're going to take y equals mx plus b, and then we're going to plug in y, which is going to be our 5. We're going to plug in 2 for x, and we're going to plug in our 1/2 for slope. So 1/2 parentheses 2 plus b. So our b is what we're looking for. Our b is what we're going to try and find. So now we need to solve for b. So my first step is when I see parentheses is I need to multiply. Now you're welcome to put this in your calculator. I'm going to do it in my head real quick. So 1/2 times 2 I know is 1. I bring down the 5 and I bring down the b. My next step is I need the b all by itself. So I'm going to do the opposite of the 1. And since the 1 is positive, I'm going to subtract. And then 5 minus 1 is 4. And so our b is 4. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my slope, which is 1/2. So y equals 1/2 x, and I'm going to take my new y-intercept, which is plus 4. And so that's how we solve these equations and write a whole equation and find our y-intercept. So we're going to do the same thing here. We need to find our slope. x1, y1, x2, y2, 3 minus 4 over 2 minus negative 1. 3 minus 4 is negative 1. The two negatives tell me to add, so I get a negative 1/3. That is my slope. Now, I'm going to take my first point, which is this one right here, negative 1 comma 4. That's my x, that's my y, and then I have my negative 1/3, which is my slope. And so I'm going to plug these in to y equals mx plus b. Again, negative 1/3 is my slope, my 4 is my y, my negative 1 becomes my x. Nope, I'm writing things in the wrong order. Sorry, guys. Our y is 4. Our slope is a negative 1/3. I cannot write today, I'm sorry. And then our x is a negative 1, and then finally plus b. So now we need to solve for b. A number next to parentheses tells me to multiply. So a negative times a negative is a positive, and anything times 1 is itself. So now we need to solve for b. So I need to do the opposite of 1/3. Oh, I keep writing 1/2. And so I know that 4 minus 1/3 is 3 2/3, which is the same thing as 11/3. So both of these equal b. I am usually going to use the improper fraction, but that does not mean that 3 2/3 is wrong. We just almost never use a decimal. So our final equation, our slope is 1/3. Then we write our x, and we write plus 11/3. All right, so now we need to find our slope. x1, y1, x2, y2, negative 3 minus 3 over 4 minus negative 2. So a negative 3 plus 3 is going to get me a 0. And then a 4 minus negative 2, I'm going to add them and get a 6. And anytime I have the 0 on top, my slope is 0. If my slope is 0, I automatically know that my line is a Hoy line. So if my line is a Hoy line, my equation is going to be y equals. And as soon as I know that it's y equals, I'm going to go find the y values in my point. They should be the same. And if they are the same, that is the value of my line. All right, I want you to try this one on your own, and then I want you to check with the completed class notes. All right, so now first step is to find our slope. So 8 minus a negative 4, 2 minus 2. So I ended up adding the 8 and 4, which is the 12. 2 minus 2 is 0. If the 0 is on bottom, it is an undefined slope. And if you're using Desmos, it's going to tell you undefined. If you're using your yellow calculator, it's going to say error cannot divide by 0. And so that's what we look for when it's undefined. And as soon as I know that it's undefined, I know that it's a VUX, which means it's going to be x equals. And I go look at my x values. I see that my x's repeat, and the number that repeats is my equation. I also want you to do this one on your own and check with the completed class notes.